The Department has for several years used in-vehicle GPS data to produce inter-urban congestion public service agreement statistics. Anonymised traffic master data are used to estimate average journey times between motorway junctions. Mobile phone data are not currently used by the Department, and I would not agree to using traceable personal data which raised genuine privacy concerns.
Does the Secretary of State not think that the people who have mobile phones should be made aware that their mobile phones are being used to track journeys and the nature of the journeys and the numbers of people in the cars and so on?
My Lords, as I said, this is not data which is being used by the government.
Ask the Minister the same question again, and in the hope of getting an answer. Does he not think that people who have mobile phones should be made aware that their mobile phones are being used by some people for tracking purposes in order to provide data of this kind?
My Lords, all of the data that the companies which use this data then relay to third parties is done in a fully anonymised form. So I'm not aware that there are concerns which need to be met in this area, but I'm happy to look at the issue further.
The Minister has told my noble friend that he's going to inquire whether any contractors use GPS signals in ways which his department regards as, and many of us regard as, inappropriate. If he finds that they are, does he have the power to stop them doing it, and would he use it?
If they are contractors used by the department, I'm sure I will have that power one way or another.
The military financed all scientific research into development of directed energy weapons. After decades, when progress was on the horizon, the research became classified. The public program was shut down and restarted in conditions of absolute secrecy. Dr. Alan Fry, a biophysicist at GE's Advanced Electronics Center, Cornell University, and a contractor for the Office of Naval Research, discovered in 1958 that the human auditory system responds to electromagnetic energy in a portion of the radio frequency spectrum at low power densities well below that necessary for biological damage. Quote, "The human auditory system and a table radio may be one order of magnitude apart in sensitivity to radio frequency energy. The human auditory system and a table radio may be one order of magnitude apart in sensitivity to radio frequency energy." Alan Fry experimented with microwaves, seeking to transmit spoken words directly into the audio cortex via a pulsed microwave analog of the speaker's sound vibration. Fry's work had obvious implications for covert operations. He synchronized pulsed microwaves with the myocardial rhythm of a frog's heart, and the heart stopped beating. Dr. Fry had perfected the induction of heart seizures by beamed electromagnetics. He microwaved cats and found that the stimulation of the hypothalamus had a powerful effect on emotions. Dr. Michael Persinger, a psychologist and neuroscientist, did research on the effects of electromagnetic radiation on the brain for a Pentagon weapons project. He has worked in the field for 40 years. Dr. Persinger published the paper on the possibility of directly accessing every human brain by electromagnetic induction of fundamental algorithms, 1995. Quote, "A process which is coupled to the narrow band of brain temperature could allow all normal human brains to be affected by a subharmonic whose frequency range at 10 Hz would vary only by 0.1 Hz. Random variations of noise within the matrices could potentially differentiate between individual brains. In other words, individuals could be identified by the specific characteristics of their brain output. He goes on further. Identification of these sequences could also allow direct access to the most complex neurocognitive processes associated with the self, human consciousness, and the aggregate of experimental representations. In other words, a person's memory, consciousness, and sense of self can be fully accessed and modified by electromagnetic means. Especially a person's personality can be completely shaped. What Dr. Persinger is saying is that virtually any mental state can be artificially injected into a human brain from an exterior source. The most frightening thing is that the means for doing this already exists in a fully operational form on a worldwide basis. Quote, "The power levels for these amplitudes are similar to those associated with the signals generated globally by radio and communication system. Within the last 2 decades, a potential has emerged which was improbable, but which is now marginally feasible. This potential is the technical capability to influence directly the major portion of the approximately 6 billion brains of the human species by generating neural information within a physical medium within which all members of the species are immersed." Unquote. Dr. Persinger's message, minus the jargon, is that the entire human race can be controlled through the use of electromagnetic influence piggybacked on the stimulation of the hypothalamus had a powerful effect on emotions, television and radio networks, or other technological means.
Like, where are these thoughts coming from?
We are now used to, in Afghanistan, having a certain level of capability, a certain level of awareness made available to us. And I think one of the challenges for defence is to take that level and extrapolate it from a theatre-specific Afghanistan and into our more general business. Because I don't think we can walk backwards on the level of information and intelligence that we are currently giving our commanders.
In order to focus our organic assets, to know where to look, rather than just generally look, we did a series of what I call ISTAR trigger events, where we would pre-book, pre-bid for and book all of the ISTAR across the electromagnetic and human spectrum. And we tried to work a period when that could all be stacked together. It would be a short period because it's a highly concentrated mass of activity, and I'm talking sort of 4 or 5 hours of concentration. And it was important to have it all together, not to have any gaps across any of these capabilities. And then when that was in the time and place of my choosing, I would then drive in a ground manoeuvre force, also a reconnaissance force, which would have an effect. It would cause an effect to observe a reaction to that. And so by observing the reaction over time and space and across the electromagnetic and human spectrum, we could then see what actually the reaction was to that by the local people, by the Taliban, etc. And then subsequently, so we learned a lot by doing that in its own right, but subsequently we'd also know where to look in more detail in the future.
I do think there's still more that we can do to uncover and be frank about the truth.
But he's completely shameless and he will say anything.
What people really want is the truth. The truth, the unvarnished truth, is the truth.